everyone, welcome back to the Kayura and Mal podcast, where my fiance is trying to turn me into a gamer. For those new here, I'm Kayura.
And I am Mal'Ganis, the overseasoned, overcooked veteran. Welcome back all. I know we took a long break. Had some travel, and then life got a little crazy, and
Wedding planning.
Wedding planning. Ooh.
We're almost done.
Almost done. We're almost there. We're not far out. So, but yeah, been playing a lot of Elden Ring. You haven't been playing much of anything at all.
Zero.
Trying to find something that she'll like, that she'll play on her own.
And that I have time to play.
Yeah, which she has time to play. So,
which is minimal. But hey, I did quit one of my jobs, finally.
Yes. Yeah, thank God.
No more retail job on Fridays.
Yeah, that was killing the weekends, and then the random call-ins. Hey, somebody's not coming. We need you to come in.
Can you be here in like 2 hours?
Yeah, it was like, that was rough. That was rough.
Yeah. I mean, really, when you add everything up, I was working 3 jobs, so.
Yeah, and I've always been on the full-time employment and part-time employment train, so that one will never go away for me.
At least yours is 1 weekend a month versus every single Friday.
Yeah. It adds up to about the same amount of hours.
Yeah, it adds up to the same amount of hours, but it's like, I would almost rather have it be like one chunk.
Yeah.
Versus like so spread out, and then the random call-ins of.
Yeah.
Like a Wednesday of, hey, like, can you come in? I don't have anyone else.
Yeah, there were times that I would get random calls though for stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, hey, we need you here in like 2 hours.
I have had that happen once. No, I've had that happen several times, but that was for other stuff. So, but, yeah. So Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree dropped, and not enough can be said about how good it is. Like, is good. Is very, very good. Very difficult though. I like how they kind of nerfed everybody. Because your base stats didn't matter. You have to find these items on the map, and bosses drop them and stuff like that, and you can use those for stat modifiers and things like that to help. It kind of helped help prevent people from just like nuking everything in the DLC. So I can see they have definitely learned from their past mistakes, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, it's funny. Everybody was review bombing it on Steam, saying that it was too hard. But I found it funny because they said the game was too difficult. When it first came out, they were like, this game is too hard. Millennia is too hard. Malekith is too hard. They need to nerf them. They do too much damage. They're too aggressive. And so that always made me laugh. But now they're complaining. Then they complained that it got too easy. They were like one-shot builds, no damage builds, and all this other stuff. And now we're back. We've swung back around to the other side of the pendulum, and they're like, the game is too hard. I can't nuke everything in one shot. I'm like, welcome to a Dark Souls game. So, but yeah, the story's been pretty good too as well. So, yeah, I think Hidetaka Miyazaki, I think if I pronounce his first name correctly, is probably one of the most understated geniuses of our generation, for video games at least. And it's kind of funny because it's all by accident. It's not some private equity firm pouring billions of dollars into a studio. It's just this one dude that like kind of doesn't speak English, but has some of the best storytelling that I think I've ever seen in a video game. So, but yeah, Elden Ring is definitely a love letter to Berserk. For those of you who've read or seen Berserk, I kind of want to like watch it with you, but also kind of don't.
Wait, I'm confused. So it's not a video game?
Well, Berserk is not a video game. Elden Ring is a video game.
Okay, so what is Berserk?
So Berserk is an anime, and
Okay.
it's a manga, and then they've tried. The first adaptation was pretty good, and the second one was not very good. But apparently, they're making another one that's going to be kind of more true to what's going on. That won't be animated in 3D. It'll be animated in the old school way.
Okay. So what does this have to do with Elden Ring?
So a lot of the story beats, and a lot of the iconography and the cinematography and the environments are based off of a lot of the things from the Berserk story.
Okay.
So like one of the characters, Mikola, he with the DLC releasing, he's doing a lot of what the antagonist of Berserk did, named Griffith, and was actually kind of made to look a lot like him, in a lot of the newer art that came out. So, but yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good so far. But yeah, Miyazaki is funny. He made a public statement. He was like, it's not quite perfect. He's like, it's not quite the perfect game, and then just didn't elaborate on the statement any further. Just comes out and is like, yeah, I haven't quite made the perfect game yet. Refuses to elaborate, and then fucking leaves. Like, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I can't stop gushing about it. It's really, really good. It's been really enjoyable. It has been a lot of fun. So, there's a couple games on the horizon that I think you might like. I gotta do a little more research on them and see what's out there. Or are you still kind of struggling with the you want somebody to play with issue?
Yes.
Okay. We can play together in Elden Ring.
Okay.
That might not be a good idea. So, a buddy of mine asked me, he's never played a Soulsborne game before, and he was like, would I like Elden Ring? And he's been playing a lot of Helldivers lately, and I was like, it's a bit of a different cup of tea. You know, it's definitely more of a cinematic experience than it is anything else. But yeah, having George R. R. Martin as one of the writers on the story, you can see a lot of Game of Thrones references as well. There's a sword that's like a direct reference to the Iron Throne because it's a bunch of swords grafted together. So, but yep. So, got anything to say? Anything to add? Any thoughts?
Not really. Right now, I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this. So.
No, I'm just telling you what I've been playing.
Yeah. Not really any thoughts.
So, but yep, I kind of don't want to talk about this drama, but I feel like it needs to be stated. Did I tell you about the Dr. Disrespect?
No.
Oh no. I feel like everybody's beat this one to death. But he got outed as sexting minors. But there's a bunch of other drama and all kinds of crazy stuff. You remember me mentioning this?
Yeah, you talked about this. It's been a few weeks though, right?
Well, apparently this goes all the way back to 2017.
Well, it's been a few weeks since you told me about it.
Yeah. So the news broke as to why Twitch terminated their contract. Yeah, a couple weeks ago. But then the fallout has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And there's a bunch of speculation and all this other kind of stuff. But apparently there was an investigation, and he made a public statement that there was no wrongdoing of any kind like that. But it's like, bro, this is the most important tweet of your life. You need to say you didn't do the thing because right now it looks exactly like you did the thing that you shouldn't have done.
And it's one of those things too, and in some ways it's good, some ways it's bad with social media. Of all it takes is for one person to make a claim,
Mm-hmm.
and someone's life can be completely ruined, whether or not it's true or not.
Yeah.
And I do think it's going to be very interesting. I feel like we're coming into a new age in, honestly, in legal battles of false allegation claims.
I think we've been there for a while, but we don't know how to handle them, especially with cancel culture. And I think there's a difference.
Well, here's where, and I think Johnny Depp is going to be the one who's like triggered this with the whole Amber Heard thing, but people turning around once they're found innocent and suing them for defamation.
Yep.
And I think there's going to be a big rise in that coming up.
Right. And I think if you use the Johnny Depp case next to what's going on with Dr. Disrespect is it was cancel culture for the first 20 minutes. After that, news broke that former Twitch employee came out and stated why his contract was terminated. Everybody went full cancel culture, and then more evidence came out, and now he's suffering the consequences.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it. I'm not saying like he didn't do it or he did do it one way or the other. I know nothing about it.
Yep.
But it's definitely interesting with social media and cancel culture, and kind of like a word of caution to people to be careful about what they say online, because like if you make a false allegation against someone and they get canceled, they can come after you.
Yeah, what is it? Libel, slander, defamation, all the big fancy legal words that I don't know fully the definition of.
It's going to be big in this because really the only time that matters is when it comes to loss of income.
Yeah.
Like someone can drag your name through the mud, but if you don't lose money from it, it doesn't matter. But if it results in a loss of income, which for influencers, like,
I mean, and he's big money.
Yeah.
He is big money. But like what I was saying is, it was cancel culture for the first 20 minutes, then more evidence came out, and now he's suffering the consequences of his actions. But you look at Johnny Depp was suffering consequences for actions that apparently never happened. So it's kind of like
a court deemed they didn't happen, and
yeah. So it just, but I think you're right. I think we're heading into a different world, especially because everything seems tied to one's public image, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm more inclined to believe it to be a bad thing, because it's like, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, and canceling people and trying to get them fired because they have a differing opinion to you is not the best place to be as a society. Does that make sense?
I definitely feel like we've been there for a minute. And I mean, I feel like it's sad where people get judged just based on like the political party they're registered with.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways.
Well, I remember it used to be, your politics were yours and you didn't share that with anybody.
Yeah.
And now it's like people have it tattooed on them. It's insane.
Yeah.
And people aren't allowed to change either, and they always have to be on the winning side. It's frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
Yeah. And I do get like, when politics are very individual things, we all have different life experiences that push us one way or the other. But it's like, I've heard people like comments of like, I don't want to be friends with anyone registered Democrat, or I don't want to be friends with anyone registered Republican. And it's like,
yep.
You don't know why they're registered that way, though. You don't know what they believe.
Yep. Yeah, and there's what is it where you're from? The way people vote and the party they're registered for are two completely different things, just based off historic tradition.
It's been historic, and it's kind of funny without going into too much detail. Of if you ask my parents why they're registered the way they are, it's because their dad was registered that way, and their dad was registered that way, and their dad, and it goes all the way back to when like Andrew Jackson was in office.
Yeah, yeah.
Of my family being registered this way. And so for me, when I registered and I was looking at politics, because sometimes I feel like it's like a coin flip.
Mm.
And it's like, well, if we're looking at this matter, I lean this way. If we're looking at this matter, I lean the other way. And literally my deciding factor was I wanted to take a stance that it's okay to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So I registered the opposite of my parents.
Okay.
For
trying to change that like intergenerational pattern.
Yeah, because especially if you look at my parents, particularly my dad, if you look at the way they're registered versus how they vote,
they're two completely different things.
They're two completely different things. Same thing with like my grandfathers. Two completely different things. Now my mom kind of flip flops back and forth, depending on who's running,
right,
and who the candidates are. So, but like yeah, like I say, like my dad's just like, I've heard him say, well, I'm registered this way, but this person's gonna run the country into the ground, so I'm gonna register the other, or I'm gonna vote the other way. Like the amount of times I've heard him say that, I'm like, why are you even?
I love how we make such absolutist statements as the creatures that we are, as everything is absolute. You know, it's funny. You know, it's so funny that politics is like game consoles to me. Like you've been an Xbox fan your whole life, and you won't even look at a PlayStation. You won't even think of a PlayStation, or vice versa. And it's like, man, you're cutting yourself out. There's some great games over there, man. But I mean, there's great games on this side too. And then I'm sitting here, the PC guy, and there's exclusives that we get cut out of. But you know, I think that's also kind of dumb and an antiquated sales tactic that they use. It's like, well, you know, Sony's going to have exclusives on the PlayStation, so you have to buy a PlayStation. I think that's just such an antiquated sales tactic. You know, I think we should have evolved past that as a community.
Yeah, though, and the thing that I hate with like video games is like, particularly when it comes to like game stations, of like it gets expensive to have like the Xbox and the PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch and like have all of them. It gets expensive, so I can understand why people might take a stance on that.
I'm trying to remember what it was like as a kid, because I had an original Xbox, and I had an Xbox 360, and I'd been an Xbox fan, but Xbox 360 is where I diverted away. It's where I started to change, because I got a PC because I really wanted to play World of Warcraft. Can't play World of Warcraft. I mean, I'm sure there's some big brain person out there who's made an Xbox 360 play World of Warcraft, but that's besides the point. But I'm trying to remember why I was so adamant towards the Xbox. I think it was Halo. I think it was because you could only play Halo on Xbox.
That sounds right.
But then something changed. I was just like, wow, there's a lot more options on PC, especially with Steam. Because I remember right when I first built my first computer, I think Steam was really on the rise. And there was the Valve pack. It was like $100 and you got a bunch of games.
So I feel like a lot of people, when we were kids, like Xbox was the gaming system to have. But I really think it came down to Xbox marketing.
Yeah, I could see that.
And maybe it's just like the limited knowledge that I had in my household and where I grew up. but I remember coming from a household of like, my dad was very adamant about me and my brother not having video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like the persuading my mom had to do to get my brother an Xbox 360 for Christmas when the year they came out.
Mm.
Because my dad was adamant that he was not going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that being like, because of how expensive it was, like that was one of the couple of Christmas presents my brother got.
Mm-hmm.
That and a couple of games, and then I think there was like a little bit of clothing to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like if my mom would have like a year later been like, let's get him this Nintendo system
Oh yeah,
or PlayStation,
your dad would have gone ape. Yeah,
my dad would have lost it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just like the finances of it, and to get
Mm-hmm.
like a whole new gaming system plus new games to go with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that year, like I remember a lot of people getting the Xbox 360, and I feel like it was the marketing around it, because I remember that being like all over the TV and it being like the it game. And was it Call of Duty?
It was Call of Duty 4 and Halo 3 came out. If I remember correctly, they came out the same year, same season. They came out fall 2007. And that's when I got my Xbox, I think. My Xbox 360 was 2007. I was a little late to the party. I think they came out in 05, 06. But that's when I got mine. And
And that was,
I tell you what, the Halo 3 release was a cultural event. That was a cultural event.
no, that was, my brother was never into Halo, but I remember him playing Call of Duty and having that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had like the NBA.
Oh, NBA 2K, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sports games. I've never been a fan of sports games. The closest I've ever gotten are racing games.
Yeah, that was. I do remember having Mario Kart for it.
I don't remember Mario Kart being on the 360.
Or
I remember they all came installed with Uno.
and maybe it wasn't Mario Kart. I remember playing like some kind of game like that. Or was there like a dragster?
There were a lot of racing games and karting games on 360. 360 was, in my opinion, Xbox 360 was the Wild West. Like everybody says that original Xbox, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, because really the generations are split, because PS1 predated the Xbox. And then PlayStation 2 and Xbox were competitors, and then Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 were competitors. But what I remember of the Xbox 360 era was it was the Wild West of video games. I mean, they were just crapping out all kinds of games, slap it together, ship it, charge $60 for it. Like that was all these development studios. There was a lot of garbage that came out, and that was the rise of the pre-orders and all that stuff like that. And then if you had an Xbox 360 and you pre-ordered it for your console, you got something specific. If you had a PlayStation, if it was like a released on both platforms, there was like a PlayStation specific pre-order reward and an Xbox 360 specific reward. And then there were stores. If you pre-ordered from GameStop, you got a specific reward, or Best Buy, you got a specific. I remember there were all these different marketing strategies, but that was, yeah.
Oh, there was always. I remember the iPod Touch.
Mm.
And like every time the new one would come out on Black Friday, they would be like, get this like rebate or this gift card. And
yep, trying to push the product, trying to get it to sell.
Yeah, it was. And my mom was so mad because never been an Apple product. I had a I had an MP3 player.
Was it a Zune?
No,
you
it was
remember
not.
the Zunes?
The one I had, it was kind of like the iPod Nano.
Was that the? It wasn't very wide.
It was like like about yay big and skinny, and then it had like the circular button
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I have one of those too. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so it was the MP3 version of that,
Okay.
and I loved that thing.
Mhm.
Absolutely loved it. And the thing, like, it just, I used it so much, it eventually died, like they all do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eventually, all electronics give up.
Yeah. And so I was asking for a new MP3 player,
Mm-hmm.
but this was like smartphones were on the rise.
Oh, this is when they started including MP3 functions in smartphones.
Like
Yeah.
that was on the rise and slowly going downhill. So like MP3 players were kind of on the way out.
Yep.
iPods were still a thing for like elementary kids and stuff.
Yep.
But they had like discontinued the Nano because I told my mom like I wanted the Nano because it was so similar to the MP3 player.
Yep. Yep.
And we could not find it anywhere.
When was this? This had to have been like, what, 2007, 2008?
I feel like it was later than that. I want to say I was probably in like middle school.
Yeah, it could have been almost 2010 then.
But either way, there was a new iPod Touch that was released that year.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, I was like, I don't want the iPod Touch. I want this Nano. That's the closest thing. And finally, it's like 2 weeks before Christmas. And I just told my mom, I was just like, just get me the iPod Touch. And my mom was like, do you know all the rebates and everything that they had and the discounts they had on Black Friday?
They all ended. Yeah.
She was so mad at me. She was just like, I could have gotten a much better deal on this because I mean they were like $200, $300 somewhere in there.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound like a lot now, but back then it was.
I remember when the first iPhone came out. How much were they? It was an astronomical price. It was like, at the time, it was astronomical to ask that much for a phone. It was like $400 or something, $300 or $400.
My first phone was free.
Yeah, I think my first phone was free as well, and I wasn't gonna get a phone, and then I ended up having to get one because my dad traveled so much.
Yeah, for me, it ended up being cheaper for my parents to get me a phone because I got one for my age. Like very few people I got mine in 4th grade, and very few people got theirs in 4th grade. It was like most people where we're from, it was when they went to junior high. So like 7th and 8th grade were the popular times that people got their cell phones. But Verizon was having a deal of 5 phone lines for $50 a month. And they were getting my brother and my grandfather a cell phone at the same time. So with that deal, it was going to end up being cheaper to add the 5th line, and then the phone they got my grandfather, it was buy one get one free.
Okay.
So they ended up saving on the monthly phone plan and didn't have to pay for the cell phone. Was the only reason I got one that early. And I mean, I couldn't take it to school.
Yeah.
Like it basically, it got used on the weekends.
Yeah, I remember I didn't get one till almost high school. Somewhere around there. No, maybe a little earlier than that. I didn't get because my dad, so the story about my dad, he basically jumped light years at once. He had the same Motorola. The first cell phone he got, it was this black Motorola flip phone, like the OG like GOAT Motorola flip phone. It wasn't the Razr. This was predates the Razr.
I wonder if we had the same phone.
And it had the green calculator screen. It had that kind, like it was not a text capable phone. It was, you made calls and that was it. And he had that phone and he just got a new one every year. He didn't want to upgrade or anything. He just wanted the same phone. He had that and just kept over and over and over and over again until the guy that manages his company's phone plan was like, dude, you have got to get a smartphone. And finally he went from that to an iPhone. He didn't have anything in between. So he went from a cell phone that didn't have a contact book in it because he used to be able to remember everybody's phone numbers. That was like his superpower.
Okay, my Motorola was a little more advanced than his.
Okay, no, he could remember everybody's phone numbers. That was his superpower. And he said as soon as he got a contact book in the iPhone to record everyone's phone numbers, he said it was like a switch flip. He just couldn't remember anybody's phone number after that.
I still remember a couple. I still remember my old home line as a kid.
I know mine and I know his. I don't know yours. I don't know my own grandfather's. I don't know my own mother's phone number.
So
I know my number and I know his number. That's it.
I don't know your phone number. I probably should know it.
Yeah, probably.
Considering the amount of times I still put my mom down as the emergency contact because
oh my god.
just because I know her number.
I always make it awkward every time I have to put an emergency contact down. Hold on, let me pull her number out real quick.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know her number? I'm like, no, leave me alone. I know her area code.
I learned the first 6 digits.
That's an odd amount. Normally, I can remember like an area code and then first 3, and then I can't remember what that's for.
First 6. So area code is 3.
Oh,
and then
okay. So you know the area code and the first 3.
and the only reason I know the area code is we have the same area code.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, but it's funny because people with consoles are kind of maybe video games in general, because that's how I was with my computer. Because like the first one I built in 2008. I didn't do a motherboard change, I didn't do a processor change, or a RAM change. And typically you do all 3 at the same time, because especially if you've waited too long and the generations change. I went from 08 to 2015 on the same motherboard, processor, and RAM. I went from 2015 to 2023 on the same processor and motherboard, but I did have to replace RAM because the DIMM stick started dying, and I only had I had 2 GPU changes in 8 years. I had my OG goated 980, and then I had 1660 because the 980 started to die, and then I had a 3080. Yeah, no. That's literally I jumped like several generations at a time. I went from a 4th generation i7 to a 12th generation i7. Like I just skipped I make my computers last. I don't fry them,
Yeah.
I take care of them.
Well, that's like I try to do the same thing. I mean, even like cell phones. I had my cell phone. It'll be 5 years this November.
I think because I got my first iPhone in 2011, I think. 2011, I got an iPhone. And I've only had 4 or 5 iPhones. I've only had 4 or 5. I don't change phones but every 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, I make them last.
So I've had 2 smartphones.
Yeah.
Because I got my first smartphone in 2014. Upgraded in...
Is that like your junior year of high school? Or was that when you went to college?
It was going into my senior year.
Okay. That was about when I got my first smartphone.
Or not, I think I had 3 because I think I ended up, the first one broke. And I had to replace it, if I remember correctly. And then that one lasted till 2019 when I got this one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because I was the same way with video game consoles, because I had the same Xbox 360 from like 2007 to 2014, like after the Xbox One came out.
I still have my Wii from like 8th grade.
I still have my PS4 Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I did change sides. And
Liar.
the only reason I changed sides was so I could play Bloodborne. It was the only reason, because it was a PlayStation 4 exclusive. They didn't even port it to PS5. It's the only way you can play Bloodborne is on a PS4.
I hate when they do that.
Yep. We've been raging in the Souls community for years. We're like, please, for the love, we don't care if the port is as bad as Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2. We'll fix it with add-ons. Please, for the love of God, just port it to Steam so we can play it on our PCs.
Dude, that's the thing I hate is when they like update the game or make a new version to where you now have to buy the updated console.
So it's not that case. So typically what will happen is, so like GTA 5 is a good example. So it came out on Xbox 360 and then Xbox One came out and they re-released on Xbox One, but you could still play it on Xbox 360. They didn't take that away. What they did with Bloodborne was the opposite. They never re-released it.
Mm-hmm.
It had one release on PS4 and that is it. You can either buy a digital or if you can find an OG hard copy, that's
But
the
also,
only way you can play it.
Like, yeah, it's just like frustrating when they do that because it's like I feel like to play all the games, well, you now have to have like every single console.
Yeah, that's the whole. Yeah, that's why I wish the movement was stronger, but the movement to port last generation games to PC, like a bunch of original Xbox, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PS3, PS4, Xbox One. I wish they'd port a bunch of ones that got left over into, even though I know there's not a market for it, but it's like the people who own the IPs have just forgotten that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really upsetting. But I think what's controlling a lot of the Bloodborne issue is Sony. I think Sony's the problem. I don't think it's FromSoft. Because that was one of the PS4's big exclusive, like, if you buy a PS4, you get to play Bloodborne. So that IP is like completely locked off. Sony will not let FromSoft do anything with it. Because you can get Elden Ring on Xbox, PlayStation, PC. You can get Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. The Dark Souls 1 and 2 ports came much later. And then what else? I think Sekiro as well is on all three of the major consoles, or all three of the major platforms. So it's kind of like basically the rest of the IP is available anywhere, but this one is not, and it's frustrating. Because I think going back and playing Bloodborne again will be a lot of fun. So, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that they come up with something.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice if we had a way to like set up all of our gaming consoles to actually like be able to utilize them.
Make them usable. I think when we buy a house, if we're ever in this
if anyone is ever able
in this godforsaken economy, I feel for everybody. Our hearts go out to you because we're suffering as well.
Unless you already own a house and like it doubled in value, then we hate you.
No, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. I pray for your prosperity and that the home insurance does not go up.
We pray the home insurance goes up.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop praying for the suffering of others. It invites suffering into your own life. But yeah, if we could have I think the office, if we had an office in a house, if it was this wide, just longer, it would fit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe a room the size of our bedroom, the master bedroom.
Yeah, I feel like it's never gonna happen though. So
yeah. I try not to get too depressed when I think about the housing market. It makes me very sad.
I think it makes all of us sad, except for those who own a house and they just watch the value go up and up and up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's like Warren Buffett said: when the tide goes out, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see who was skinny dipping and who wasn't.
Yeah, 'cause I feel like the only place, like, it might be able to go up a little bit more, but I feel like if nobody can afford to buy a house and people eventually need to
I'm more afraid of people not being able to eat. You know what I mean? I mean, there's only so far credit cards can take you before they say we're not giving you any more credit.
And I think, I don't know for sure, at least watching Caleb Hammer, it feels like there's a lot of people headed that way, but I could be wrong. But also maybe with his like over 1 million subscribers, maybe they're getting their act together and not.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. So, but in less depressing news, World of Warcraft Season of Discovery Phase 4 comes out on the 11th. Guess where we're going on the 12th?
I know, I was about to say, and we have to get up early on the 12th.
I know. I'm like...
Yeah, you guys are going to be on the road probably by like 7 a.m.
Yeah, I know. It'll be okay, though. I already told the guild homies, I was like, I'm leaving for the weekend. I'll be able to play a little bit Thursday night. I'll be there for the ST raid for the experience, and then I got to go to bed. And that'll pretty much be my intro into Phase 4, is not doing Phase 4 content. It'll be doing Phase 3 content and logging out. But they seem to be fixing things, and it looks like they're going to roll out Phase 4 in this like staged manner, because the way that vanilla worked was half the game was leveling and then half the game was the end raids. And the end raids were all like, they were built on top of each other. Like you had to do one, then the next, then the next, then the next. So half the experience was leveling, half the experience was the raids and the dungeons. So it looks like what they're going to do is they're actually going to chop it up even more and stage it out correctly, because there was a big issue in Phase 3 where health pools were just too large. They were just too big for the raid. Like they were tuned for 40 people, but you could only bring 20 people to the raid. Like it was just too much. I remember that first week in Sunken Temple. It was rough. That was a rough couple of raids, but I'm pretty hyped for it. I am stoked to finally hit level cap. I am not stoked to grind gold. Hopefully Blizzard can get it all the way into the end zone and not drop the ball as they have in the past, but we'll see what happens. So I've kind of forgotten that Pandaria Remix is happening, because I just don't care anymore, and I just want to play Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yep. Well, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to try and get back on the content YouTube grind.
Yeah, are we gonna try to plan a video for?
Yes, I'm shooting. I've got to do some scripting. I've got to review some things.
We'll have to film pretty early then.
Yeah. So if we don't cover anything that cool that happens over the end of the week, this upcoming week or weekend, it's because we've already filmed. So
we'll cover it when we get back.
Yeah, we'll cover it on the next one. So. But yeah, I got to do some scripting. I got to do a little bit of research, and I've got to do a little bit of soul searching, because I want to make a video essay about Elden Ring. But it's such, my thoughts are just so immense, I don't even know where to begin. But I kind of want to talk through it a little bit on the podcast, because I need somebody who is not completely coped out of their mind on how good the game is to like, you sound like an idiot. You know what I mean? I need somebody to like reel me in. Does that make sense?
You can try as someone who knows nothing about the game.
Well, that's kind of what I want. You know, I want to, you know, does that make sense? I need somebody who's like detached from it. Does that make sense? Like an unbiased party.
I guess the thing is like, how can I be unbiased if I know like absolutely nothing? Like I get like, I'm not like, I am unbiased, but I feel like in some ways I'm biased towards the fact that I'm not a big video game person.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So, but we'll work on it. But, well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed the content, because we love making it for you.
If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. We love having you guys, and we hope you enjoyed it. Bye.